You know those words we use every single day? The ones that just roll off the tongue, but maybe have more going on under the surface.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into one of those. Detach.
Exactly. It seems simple,
Hmm.
but when you look into, well, its history, its definitions, all the nuances, and how we actually use it,
Mhm.
there's quite a bit there.
So that's the plan then. Unpack this word, figure out what makes it tick.
That's the mission, to really get a feel for its layers and significance.
Okay, let's jump in. Origins. Where did detach come from?
Right. So it tracks back to French, the word détaché.
Détacher. Okay.
And that itself came from an older French word, détaché,
Hmm.
which basically meant to unfasten or disjoin.
Unfasten. So like untying something, that idea was there from the start.
Pretty much. The core idea of separation, of undoing a connection, it's baked right in.
And if we break down détaché itself, the parts of the word.
Yeah, good question. You've got the prefix de, which in French and often in English, borrowing from it, signals, reversal, removal, doing the
Get
opposite.
like decode or deconstruct.
Exactly. And then the root part, tachier, that actually traces back to a Frankish word, meaning to fasten or to fix.
So fasten literally means unfasten.
Basically, yeah. The word's own structure tells its story, undoing something that was fixed or attached. Not just separate, but separate from a fixed point.
That's actually pretty neat. Language is cool like that. So fast forward to now, what's the like standard definition we're working with?
Well, as a verb today, detach essentially means to disengage something or remove it. And that can be physical or emotional.
Okay, disengage or remove. Separating from a whole.
Crucially, yeah, separating it from a whole, it implies there was a connection before.
Right, wasn't just floating free.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, I think. The other words we use, like remove, disconnect, disengage. How does detach stand apart?
Yeah, the nuances are key. Let's take detach versus remove. Think about detaching a coupon from a magazine page. It was attached,
Right.
but you might just remove a book from a shelf.
Mm.
It wasn't really attached in the same way. Remove is, well, broader. Detach really highlights that prior connection being broken.
Okay, so detach emphasizes the breaking of a bond. What about disconnect? I use those two almost the same way sometimes.
That's common, but disconnect, it often feels a bit more maybe mechanical
Mm.
or digital, like you disconnect a charger or disconnect from Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Detach could do that too, but it also covers emotional stuff much more readily.
Yeah.
You talk about emotional detachment. You don't usually say you emotionally disconnect in quite the same sense.
That's a good distinction. Emotional detachment, right? Okay, one more. Detach versus disengage.
Okay, disengage often feels more active. Like you're purposefully pulling back from something, you disengage from an argument or disengage troops.
Like stepping away.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas detach can feel a bit more neutral sometimes. It might be a gradual separation, like detaching from an old friendship that just faded. It's not always that sharp, active pullback that disengage implies.
Interesting. So the word choice hints at the how and the why of the separation. Intentionality.
Precisely. These subtle differences, they actually tell us quite a bit.
And we use detach all over the place in daily life, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Like we said, detaching a price tag or someone trying to detach emotionally from work stress at the end of the day. Even just detaching your keys from a carabiner.
Yeah.
Physical, emotional, practical.
It's versatile.
Very.
And it pops up in bigger contexts too, right? Like reading the news.
For sure. You hear about, say, a satellite detaching from a rocket stage. That's a critical physical separation.
Yeah.
Or you might get advice to detach your garden hose before a freeze. Very practical physical detachment.
Right. Prevents damage.
And then you get descriptions of people, maybe a politician in a press conference, described as being emotionally detached. That uses the word to convey a whole demeanor, an emotional state.
So it works on the scale of spacecraft and garden hoses, but also human emotion and interaction.
Exactly. It spans the physical and the emotional, the large scale and the very personal.
So wrapping this up then, the big takeaway is that detach isn't just a synonym for separate.
Not at all. It carries that echo of its origin, unfastening something fixed. It hints at the type of connection that existed, and maybe even the manner of its breaking, whether physical or emotional. It's got depth.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a thought for everyone listening. As you go through your day, maybe notice the moments you detach, physically unhooking something or mentally stepping back from a feeling or situation.
Yeah, pay attention to those small acts.
What do those different kinds of detaching tell you? About the connections themselves and about how you navigate separating from them? Something to mull over.